Thank you so much for having me here today. It is a great honor, and I particularly want to thank Muhammad Ali for the invitation. His events are always exemplary, and so it was a priority for me today to address this esteemed crowd. And I have heard wonderful things about how today is going so far, and hearing his speech right now has been truly inspiring. So Muhammad Ali asked me to speak about vision. He also, I added to that, actually myself, I added to that, to bring self-compassion into the conversation. I was recently at my law school reunion at Harvard and took a course on self-compassion and then started taking many on the same. And I think that if this esteemed audience wants to go from good to great, it is a great asset in your pocket. One of the tools you can use to get to the next level. So I wanted to share that with you, although the great speakers like Christina Neff and Elizabeth Payotti are the ones who are the masters. We're going to bring it in terms of very practical terms. But first, let's focus the conversation and discussion we're having together on vision. Vision is something, I'm going to look at my clock because I've got a certain amount of time and I want to honor it. So one of the things that is very important is to have a vision. How many of you here today would say you have a vision for where you want to go and what you want to achieve in life? Please raise your hands. Okay, so I did see about 25% of the audience, if I'm right, about a quarter of the audience does not have a vision. And about 3/4 thankfully does. So I think that first off, when you're beginning with any journey, even if it's like Muhammad Ali was speaking earlier about his vision for IVA, visions start and then the journey begins. Yes. Otherwise, you're wandering aimlessly. And by the way, no judgment on that either, because sometimes you need to wait for the vision to come to you. But it's very important that when the vision does, that you act upon it. So let's talk a little bit about what it means for a vision to come to you. So that's when something is inside of you, wanting to manifest. It's extremely different than having a vision that everyone around you has, whether for themselves or for you. So let's say you have classmates or colleagues, and all of them want to be entrepreneurs or doctors or politicians or whatever you want to say, professors, anything in the field. It becomes the norm in your world to think that that's what success is defined by. It can be called peer pressure, but sometimes there's no pressure from external forces. It might be internal. It might also be as basic as what you simply believe success is defined at, because it's all you see around you. It can also be from your family, and very often family pressure, starting from Bachman, from a very young age, can actually set you on the wrong course of life. So it's really, really important to think about that. That means if your father was a professor or a doctor, or in our family, everyone runs the family business, kind of, that sort of pattern. And many of you are a little bit more experienced, so you might be looking at me and saying, we know that much, right? But many things I'm still learning today is when a dream comes to you, it doesn't let go. So the difference between a dream and maybe just an idea is that ideas come and go. Ideas will float in and out of your life at various stages of your life, perhaps at various stages of the day, maybe at various stages or moments of today's talk. You might have ideas flittering in and out. A dream is persistent. A dream comes from within, internal, not external. It may be inspired by something external. You might be at an event, you might be, watching a movie, and something happens and you're like, you know what? I need to do that. And it just doesn't let go. It can haunt people for decades. A dream is something within, and one of the strongest things I believe is the minute Allah puts a dream inside you, it is only inside you. That means if you tell it to people, they might think you're crazy. It also means that Allah will equip you with all you need to achieve this dream, even if you think it's crazy. So now let's give the example of LADIESFUND Energy Private Limited, of which I'm the founder and representing in today's forum. So LADIESFUND Energy Private Limited began as the creation of Pakistan's first and the world's first, to our knowledge, all female and female-owned women's solar plant in Garo, Sindh, where we were making solar and eventually hybrid with wind and battery solar panels, energy in Garo, owned by women and run entirely by women. Now, while it was considered wonky by everyone, we've been making quite a bit of progress, but then this IMF deal has been delaying things. So what happened is we started having women engineers in Pakistan solarizing rooftops. And about our 25 women engineers who we've had certified by NED, including myself as number 26, but I'm not an engineer, the other 25 are full engineers. There is actually 14 in niqab, not even just hijab. So it's very exciting to see these women climbing up ladders, going on rooftops, and solarizing. And I have to say that it's believed to be the first in the world. We had ADB come and sit with our girls, saying there's nothing like that in Manila. We had the German government come and sit with the girls and also collaborate with us, saying there's nothing like that in Germany. I'm not saying there aren't women engineers and women solar installers in the world, but they're not an all-female troop. And certainly in many cases, especially in Pakistan, they don't always get exposure. So this is a very unique idea. And we just won 1,000 houses from the World Bank. And not only have we been doing many areas here in Karachi at competitive prices, if anyone wants their house done, we guarantee best price in town and best result, but we've been fixing other people's mistakes. So people say solar is so easy. What do you mean you're fixing people's mistakes? Would you believe that sometimes people cross wire and you can get an electric shock? Sometimes people use cheap equipment or used equipment or even broken equipment. They pass it on simply because they think the buyer is too dumb to notice. And no criticism of a buyer. How will a buyer know? You're really trusting someone. But let's just say not everyone is necessarily ethical or honest. So we've been coming in, cleaning up other people's mistakes. And we're very proud of that because obviously if you're going to be women in a field that's male-dominated, you have a responsibility to strive not only for excellence, but to be better than the best. Not just, I'm not saying women and men and competitive, I don't mean it that way. I mean if you want to be taken seriously, you have to be that much better at the start. Of course, we want to be that much better always, but the point is at the start, to break through that glass ceiling, you're going to need to be that much better. Otherwise, who's going to take a chance on you, right? So that's about vision and how our vision is unfolding. I just returned from Skardu, where we have made 11 water well boreholes solarized by 4 women engineers in GB. And they're final semester students at the University of Baltistan, Skardu. And now we're going to be training them and certifying them, as well as we found a senior woman engineer to be a supervisor once we get business and are ready in that region. But at least 4 of them got exposure. Yes, there were male vendors. Yes, there were male technicians. But these women with me went up on the roof. We were climbing ladders. They were there. Can you imagine? You have no idea how groundbreaking this is. And in Karachi, our team included women from Baluchistan and Sindh, interior Sindh. Like me, I shouldn't say interior Sindh, in other parts of Sindh than Karachi. So this is very, very exciting. And so we don't even see this as a project that's for a big city, fancy people to do. It's a project that any woman in Pakistan who has a dream can do. And would you believe that when I had this dream, I actually had a dream at night. So first of all, it began that my family has a wind power plant with Hydro-China Endowed Wind Power in Garo. And when I went with my late father to China to pick up the wind turbines, ours were white. And I saw these very sexy, gorgeous, fire engine red ones. And I said to my father, why don't we get those instead? And he was basically, you silly girl, we ordered 2 years in advance. This is the latest technology. And I had a vision of LADIESFUND pink, fuchsia, magenta pink ones that you can see from the sky. And I also said, I run a foundation and we do so much with women, and everybody wants to do sewing machines and they want to help women with handicraft and whatnot. And I was like, we have a media mogul among our winners of Sultana Siddiqui, and Sultana Appa is running 5 media channels and now it's 3, but she's a rock star. But I was like, who's doing the big equipment stuff? Because I asked him, how are these wind turbines going to reach Pakistan? By sea. So I was like, why aren't women running businesses that require the sea to transport them? And I realized, why not? And if I wanted to do something, why not just do it? And if I wanted other women to do it, why not just start? So that vision sprung from that day, and it evolved to solar because we have a wind power plant and solar prices were going down, and you have to be flexible and move with your journey. But then I had a dream a couple of years ago. It was very interesting. And in that dream, I was climbing ladders. And it was really interesting because I didn't connect it to this project. And I was like, why am I climbing ladders in a dream? And it was the same ladder going up and up into the sky. It wasn't like I wasn't on a roof. And then I find myself climbing ladders now, which is so unlike me, I must say. But it's so much fun. And I realized we pay all this money going abroad and climbing the Eiffel Tower or in Vatican City or the CN Tower. I have now had the blessing and pleasure to see Karachi and now Skardu from the sky in different locations on different rooftops. And it's really interesting. It's really cool seeing our city from a higher elevation. And it wasn't a benefit, I thought, because I'm a businesswoman. I was thinking of, the profit to solarize a roof. I wasn't thinking it's quite cool and beautiful. And then, I've been climbing different ladders, and every house and every venue has a different ladder. We've done spiral staircases, we've done 90-degree ones, and then found out they have another way to climb up, and all these interesting things. And then what happened was we had learned in our NAD course to certify the women that there is domes and how much harder it is to solarize a dome. And now we've done St. Patrick's Church, which is a dome. So it's so funky. The world is just open with all these possibilities. And so this journey has been, and it is still unfolding. And I have no idea where it'll lead, but I don't need to, because it's one step at a time. And there's all this talk about the laws of attraction and manifestation, and you need to know your dreams, and you need to document your dreams and journal your dreams, and you need to progress everything. But there's also a lot of room for God to unfold your dreams, and for your dreams to take a shape different than if you were to box them into a certain way. And so I think it's extremely powerful to do that, and that's where my recent learnings about self-compassion come in. And it's about self-compassion and the inner critic that I've been studying and learning. And what's so remarkable is that if you're not beating yourself up a lot of the time, and I'm not saying that you're doing that, I know I was doing that. And they say most people do that. And instead, if you're like, what? I was listening to Kobe Bryant this morning, in fact, the late basketball player. And someone asked him, and it relates to this point, and they said, do you play to win or you play not to lose? And he was like, neither. And they're like, now we're confused. And he was like, doesn't matter. If I lose today, I'm playing a game 2 days later. If I win today, I'm playing a game 2 days later. It's all about excellence. So each step of the way, you do the best you can, you're going to get to the next spot. Because if you are living a life of striving excellence, it'll eventually fall into place. And just like our solar plant, which is still going to happen, but we've taken this little diversion, has led us to rooftops, which is pretty cool. Who knows where it'll lead us? It'll lead us back, and then maybe another way, and certainly to GB, which I never, ever dreamt. And I didn't even know before I went that GB needed water wells, because I didn't realize that this land of lakes, that when the glaciers melt, the water becomes filthy. And it's not safe, and it's actually dangerous for them to drink. I was so busy thinking about Sindh and our deserts. And so it's really fascinating how much learning I'm on, which keeps my path so interesting and which I'm very grateful to God for. But the women who are coming on board, and whether they're with us temporarily or they're with us long term, they're part of a journey, and a vision I have for them is in the next 8 years to be in the C-suite, not just in Pakistan, but in the region. Because they're women who are courageous, breaking boundaries, and there should be no element of their career path that they will be held back from, because they've begun their career with such an openness for not only excellence, but for breaking barriers that this young generation of 19 to 22 will soon not even see as a barrier. And one of the things I was most proud of is, as we're developing the social media to go with this and the website and so forth, is that the whole world, when they turn to the development of women solar installers, will take the lead from Pakistan and our women. And so if somebody in Brussels or somebody in New York want to know how to do anything, our women are filming tips, strategies, ideas, and others will turn to them not only for inspiration, but for excellence and mentorship. And that is incredibly exciting to me, and I hope to help. Thank you so much.